He is Louis Riddick of the Mothership, a former NFL safety, former front office executive with the Eagles and with Washington. He was on the call Monday night. The Titans surprising the Dolphins, and he's got the Peach Bowl coming up. That'll be December 30th. It's Ole Miss and Penn State. Thanks for joining us. Do you think Bill Belichick knows what his future is going to be in New England?
And then I'd venture to say he does.
Okay.
I'd say after all these years, what is it now? 23 years? Is it 23 seasons that he's coached up there? 24 seasons? I would hope that they have the kind of communication that's ongoing and continuous that kind of lets him know that, look, this is kind of what we're thinking about and how things are going to go here at the end of the year. I mean, those are kind of things that just kind of like, to me, would seem like it would be a natural kind of conversation. That's the kind of respect he deserves. And I think he would want to know that kind of information, especially if Mr. Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and the rest of the gang up there were going to go ahead and make a decision. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked by it at all if it's actually coming to an end.
How attractive do you think he would be for, let's say, the Chargers, Washington, Carolina, anybody else?
Oh, he's attractive for everybody, especially from a program building standpoint in terms of philosophically how he thinks you have to win in the NFL. He's always been a guy who's been a step ahead as far as schemes, strategies, tactics. He knows all that stuff. He hasn't lost his fastball in that way. But there's no question that some of the decisions that he's made as far as player selection have really burned him, man. He's really missed the mark on a couple of those. And see, that's going to be it. What kind of GM? Who do you got? Who do you got that you're going to pair with him that's going to be able to withstand the kind of let's just say pressure a guy like Bill will put on you? Because I can just tell you this. It ain't like anything you've ever seen before as far as being around somebody like that who is as demanding, as accomplished. It's not for everyone. It's just not.
But do you think he goes in, he wants to be the GM and the coach if he goes to another place? Or would he be willing to acquiesce to a GM?
I don't really know. I would think that he would still, I don't think he would ever just give it up totally. I don't think he'll ever just be a guy who says, hey, you know what? I don't want anything to do with it. You just pick the players, I'll coach them. But I could see a situation now, like, remember, Andy used to have control of everything when he was in Philadelphia at one time. Everything. Now, Tom Heckard worked with him, but Andy had control of everything. He became, and he would probably tell you himself, and I don't want to speak for him, but I know how he has talked about it, but he became someone who became an even better coach as far as the details are concerned when he took a lot of that off of his plate, and he just had someone who he can trust. And right now he's hit the sweet spot with him and Brett down in KC. So could Bill do that? Of course he could, but who would that guy be? Who would it be that he would trust in that way?
What's your level of concern for the Chiefs?
Oh, it's serious. It's significant because, look, I think Andy used to say this all the time, Dan, when we were in Philly, like when we used to talk about player profiles, especially at the wide receiver position, and we talk about all this stuff about short area quickness and explosiveness, and he can do this. And Andy used to say this, look, man, can this guy catch the ball or not? Because I'm seeing some issues. Okay? Because he would say, you know what? He'd be like, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the number one job a receiver has to do is catch the thing? He used to say that all the time. And that worries me for this football team.
But how do receivers not catch a football?
You know, because honestly, some guys just have better hand-eye coordination and natural ability in game situations to track a ball in the stadium when someone's coming at them than other guys do. And some, I mean, you know how it is. There's guys who are there's people who are practice players and there's people who are gamers. Some people, when you rep it and you're talking about it and there's no pressure, they look like All-Americans, Hall of Famers. When the lights come on, they shrink. Some of the guys there don't step up and do the right things when the lights are the brightest. And that's all we're talking about with KC now. It's not about, well, are they going to make it to playoffs and they are going to be. No, in KC, it's either Super Bowl or the season stunk. That's all. That's all it is. So yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for sure.
Okay,
I'm sure
level of concern more for Kansas City or Philadelphia moving forward?
More for Kansas City.
Really?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. Um, in the NFL, the game still is going to all right. So it's going to be about winning at the line of scrimmage in the postseason, and it's about explosive plays in the postseason. That's what it's about. Can you control the line of scrimmage? Obviously, turnover differential is always going to be there. Can you win at the line of scrimmage? Can you create explosives? It's just too hard to go 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 plays all the time. Philly can create explosives because they have dudes who can do that. AJ can do it. Devontae can do it. Swift can do it. Kenny Gainwell can do it. In Kansas City, Travis can create explosives, but he's a tight end. He's not necessarily that guy who can flip a game on its head. And who else they got? That's the issue. And when you're talking about winning at the line of scrimmage, yeah, KC's offensive line is still very good, and their defense is one of the best in the NFL. I believe Philly's pass rush will start to show up. I am concerned about their secondary, but I do think they are still built enough the right way, and Jalen Hurts will get on the same page with his offense, and Brian Johnson will get it going to the point where I think they will still be there in the end. It'll be between Dallas, Philly, and San Fran in the NFC. The AFC is a little bit tougher of a road for KC maybe than it's ever been, simply because they can't flip the game on its head with one play like they used to be able to.
Former defensive back, now working for the mothership with NFL college football analysis. He's Louis Riddick joining us on the program. I'm going to play something that Cam Newton brought up on his 4th and 1 podcast, and then get your reaction to it.
Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, but Brock, they're not winning because of him.
He's not turning the ball over.
He's managing the game. And if we were to put that in its own right as game managers, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, and really Dak Prescott. These are game managers. They're not difference makers.
Okay, in the start of that answer, he talked about, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, they're difference makers. And then he got to game managers with Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. Is that a slight? Was it meant as a slight?
Of course it's meant as a slight. Because, Cam sounds like somebody who, and I like him. I like him. Every time I got a chance to talk to him, I like the guy. But Cam comes off as bitter, because he thinks he should still be playing. And you've often heard him talk about the fact that he's better than a lot of the quarterbacks that are still playing in the NFL. And sometimes when you have that kind of feeling, your opinions and the lens through which you look at these guys becomes a little bit distorted and jaded, and you say it in a way that kind of makes you feel better about where you're at, or rather, it kind of makes you, it just makes you feel better, for lack of a better phrase here. Look, I continue to have issues with this whole game manager versus this guy wins the game BS. Because, Dan, look, I played in an era where, all right, here are the great quarterbacks I played against. All right. I played against Troy when Dallas was mowing down everybody in Dallas. I played against Elway when TD was going for 2,000 yards and they had McCaffrey and they had Shannon, they had all those dudes. I played against Joe and I played against Steve Young when they had Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Brent Jones, Ricky Waters, Roger Craig, et cetera, et cetera. You know what's interesting? I remember being a scout when Peyton had Edgerrin and he had Marvin Harrison, he had Reggie Wayne, he had Dallas Clark, and I'm sitting there going, look, these guys then and now were considered some of the greats to ever play the game. And they had Hall of Famers all around them. But we become drunk with this notion that unless you are throwing the foot, unless you're getting hit in the face, the receiver's triple covered, the window's an inch by an inch, and you threaded through a keyhole, you're not elite. You're not that great. You're not that. Unless you're throwing it off balance across your body, no look, 70 yards in the air on a flat line, well, you're just benefiting from all the guys around you. And it's really, Dan, it's become stupid. It's become stupid the way in which we are trying to individualize the game that we all know. The reason why we love it is because it's the greatest team sport ever. But we are so enamored with trying to put people in the levels and tiers. And that's why there's always this study about this is a category A quarterback. This is a category B. It's like quarterback wins, right? Like we keep using that stat, even though a quarterback could do everything possible in a game. And if he doesn't have the ball last and his defense gives it up in the end, it still goes as a loss for him. It's like we pick and choose. We move goalposts so damn much in this business. And we have such weird ways of categorizing elite versus not. Yeah, we all know that Brock Purdy is not physically and from a throwing perspective as talented as Patrick Mahomes. No kidding. So what? You know, Joe Montana wasn't as physically gifted as Steve Young. Steve Young's not as physically gifted, even though Steve Young's a Hall of Famer and one of my best friends. I love Steve Young to death. He's not as physically gifted as Lamar Jackson as a runner. Better throw, etc. See, like it's just so I absolutely hate these conversations because right now Brock Purdy is right in the crosshairs, right? He's right in the crosshairs of everyone's debates right now concerning whether or not he should be considered an MVP because anyone could do what Brock is doing.
Well, also, if he was taken in the top 10,
of course,
we would look at Brock Purdy differently.
There you go. And what does that tell you? The fact that we can sit here and admit this, the fact that we could admit that, well, if he was taken in the top 10, then I wouldn't be having this conversation, already shows you that really your opinion right now really doesn't mean a 4-letter expletive that I won't say. It really doesn't mean anything because you're already admitting that you're biased simply because of where he came in.
Yeah.
And that right there takes all your credibility and you can just throw it out the door. I hope the guy, I swear, like I hope he wins the MVP so bad because there will be about 6 to 8 months worth of conversation where people are going to be pissed off.
Well, it's like when the Joker was going to win 3 MVPs in a row, and I think people had a problem because he doesn't jump high.
Exactly.
There's no highlights. You know,
exactly.
A highlight will be a pass. And I think that he hadn't won a championship. So now he's won a championship and probably should have been the MVP last year during the regular season. But, you know, I don't need excitement. I need and Joe Montana was a game manager in my opinion. And Bart Starr was. And you know, there's
Tom Brady early in his career.
Yes. We get Cam was not a game manager. Well, that's part of the problem with Cam. He didn't manage a game. If you don't manage a game, then you mismanage a game. Patrick Mahomes manages a game, and that means I'm going to make the right call at the right time. I'm going to make the right play. It doesn't mean you're limited physically. It's mentally you're ahead of people, and that's what I think. It's not a negative to me to say you know how to manage a game.
Every great quarterback, guru, teacher, coach, whatever. If you ask them, give me the 2 primary factors that determine greatness in quarterbacks. They don't go off-schedule throws and excitement and whether or not he can throw the ball 70 yards. They don't say that. They say decision-making, accuracy. That's where they start. And everything else from there, obviously you need physical skills and to be able to pass the football and move. Yeah, of course. Decision-making and accuracy. But for Brock Purdy, it's like, well, he's not making decisions. Kyle's just telling him in his ear what to do. He's not actually throwing the football. That's an AI-generated guy out there throwing the football. I mean, well, what the hell do you want? You know, he's getting penalized for the things that the greats say you have to be able to do to play the position great.
I like you fired up. I like you.
Yeah, I know. You know why?
Ready to hit somebody.
You know, I always love these conversations with you, man. This is always good stuff.
You know what? Go drill Orlovsky, like right in the middle of his back. Don't even tell him it's coming. Just like stick him.
You know what? Back in the day, back in the early 90s, when we could actually hit quarterbacks and people didn't cry, I would have loved to.
Did you ever have a quarterback cry when you hit him?
Cry? No. You know what? Because in our days, they didn't say a word. I mean, because they expected it. They expected. I mean, I can tell you, man. I can just tell you one quick play. We're playing the Dallas Cowboys in the preseason once down at Texas Stadium, Old Texas Stadium. We had scrimmaged against them when I was with the Raiders for like 2 or 3 days in training camp before that. And they kept running these skinny posts. And I was late on my break out of the middle of the field. And Gruden kept saying, he's like, are you going to ever make a play on this? Are you ever going to make a play on this route? Are you going to make a play on this route? Or are you just going to keep watching them catch it? They ran the same play in the game then. And I saw it coming. I saw the formation. I believe it was Jason Garrett was playing quarterback at the time. And I looked and I said, here it comes. I didn't even back up. I just made a beeline right for the receiver. Dan, I hit him with everything I had. Like, it was a high shot up in the head, all this stuff. Nobody said a word. Like, I literally walked by the guy and looked. Now, I understand why you can't do that now, but the game is totally different. It's totally different now. And I get why. No, quarterbacks didn't cry then, but they can look. Everybody can. You can't hit a guy hard right now without the whole sideline. You see everybody going like this.
Throwing the
flag. It's crazy, man.
Can you imagine the old Raiders, the Al Davis Raiders, if they played today? Guys would be in jail.
Yeah, they sure would. You'd have on the suspended list, you'd have like 40 guys. Yeah.
The Raiders are on the commissioner's exempt list, the entire team. Hey,
that's right.
Great to talk to you. Have fun in the Peach Bowl, and thanks for joining us.
Of course, man. Thanks.
That's Louis Riddick of the Mothership.